Well, hello. How are you guys doing tonight? It's Doug Diamond here. It's 10:11 p.m. on 2424. Hope you guys are doing well. Yes, February 4th, 2024. For those of you keeping track at home, and you've reached another Diamond Report Live, I'm glad you guys made it, and I'm glad I made it. And it was quite a week. Let me just say that. It was a good week, though. Hope you guys had a good week since we all met up here last time, and we're doing this once a week type of show. If you are new to this show, we do live broadcasts on Sunday nights starting at 10 p.m. Central Time. And if you are so inclined, you're welcome to join. And that is broadcast on YouTube, and as well as my Rumble channel and 2 Facebook pages. So the links are in the description box if you care to join live. And thank you all to those who are here. We seem to have a lot of the same crew, which is really great, and occasionally some new folks too. So welcome to everyone. Now, let's see. Let's take a look at the news. Lots going on, and I was just looking at chat before we got started here, and Kelly mentioned that there is a lot of power outages happening in California, so that automatically changed the first story I wanted to bring up. So thank you to Kelly. We are looking at poweroutage.us. And if you haven't ever seen this website before, it's a really good one. If you want to know where the power outages are. Now, it's got California red. That does not mean it's Republican. No, it instead means that there are over 100,000 people without power. The old Gavin Gruesome state. So here's your outages, and you can see it's mostly Central and Northern California, I guess, for the most part. And that seems to be, as far as the outages, it seems to be as a result of all of the storms that are happening there, at least in part. Gives them a good reason to shut off the power, if you know what I mean. So, yeah, so take a look at poweroutage.us. It's a good site, and we'll take a look at some other weather-related things as we move forward tonight. And as I always try and mention, geoengineering is indeed the man-made climate change that we always hear about. So when you hear about man-made climate change, just say, yeah, it's real. It's called geoengineering. So I think people tend to forget that. Even Greg Reese in his report there doesn't mention that. He just talks about how the planet is cooling, blah, blah, blah. And I tend to believe exactly what Dane Wigington puts out, and that is, in fact, it's the opposite of that. They purposely keep the eastern half of the United States cooling, or cool. There's an anomalously blue spot on the eastern half of the U.S. if you look at any of the NOAA weather maps as far as the temperatures go. And that is done on purpose. It's called chemical ice nucleation, something that we talk about very often on this show. And you can look at geoengineeringwatch.org. And in fact, we will pull that up a little bit later and take a look at some info on there too. So yeah, Emily's saying that's the only proper response to any climate change comment. Yeah, it is man-made climate change. It's called geoengineering. And, you know, you can argue back and forth whether or not it's from people having cars and air conditioners and all of that stuff. I tend to think it really is pretty much all driven at this point by global climate engineering, geoengineering programs. So anyway, let's take a look at the headlines here. We've got Hal Turner Radio Show pulled up, halturnerradioshow.com. It's a good radio show if you've never heard of it. And his website, most of the articles on the home page at this moment are open and unlocked. At one point, pretty recently, he locked everything down and had it for subscribers only, although he must be either having second thoughts or something else. I don't know. But we'll just look at the headlines, and I'll leave it to you guys if you want to take a look at any of his articles on his site. U.S., UK attack Yemen 15 more times today. Just today. 15 more times. American, British warplanes launched 15 airstrikes on the Yemeni governorates of, and then it mentions the places where they hit. So apparently we are at war yet again. Not a shocker. Ukraine army uses American-supplied HIMARS to strike a bakery, killing 20 civilians. Ukraine army used an American-supplied HIMARS precision rocket system to attack a bakery in the ex-Ukraine city in Luhansk, Russia today. Remember, it's now Russia. Those states or oblasts in the eastern side of Ukraine have voted to become members of Russia. So yes, this is true. They are part of Russia. They're not part of Ukraine anymore. The people there want to be part of Russia, and yet they're constantly being bombarded by the criminal Ukrainian army and criminal Ukrainian government, which of course is the criminal American government. The strike killed at least 20 people and destroyed the building. So that's what they're doing. They're destroying bakeries and killing innocent people. Sounds about right, doesn't it? New airstrikes against Yemen, new missile hits against U.S. base in Conoco oil field in Syria. This was as of yesterday. At approximately 4 p.m. Eastern U.S. time on Saturday, new airstrikes began in Yemen. About the same time, 8 missiles were said to have hit the U.S. military base at the Conoco oil field in Syria, which of course shouldn't exist. There shouldn't be, not the oil field shouldn't exist, but there shouldn't be American bases in Syria. Why? And when did that happen? And was that okayed by anyone ever? Not as far as the American population goes, I don't think. They just show up and they have been literally stealing millions and millions of dollars worth of Syrian oil over the last several years at the American bases in Syria that shouldn't exist. And yet, we get mad when they attack our bases. Figure that one out. Iraqi parliament calling to ditch the U.S. dollar for oil. Days later, U.S. airstrikes. The Finance Committee in the Iraqi parliament made a statement on 31st of January calling for the sale of oil in currencies other than the U.S. petrodollar, aiming to counter U.S. sanctions on the Iraqi banking system. 2 days later, U.S. airstrikes began. And then this is dated Friday. Scuttlebutt is big, gigantic shakeup coming inside Israel. So we'll see. The scuttlebutt from very deep inside the Israeli government today, again, Friday. And the scuttlebutt claims the leaders of the Israeli army and their security services will resign from their positions the moment the war on Gaza ends. Maybe that's the secret. They don't want it to ever end, do they? U.S. attack in progress. Again, this is from Friday. B-1 bombers are in the air. This is all confirmed. It wasn't the attack. It was some attacks. So this was Hal tracking what was happening as it was unfolding back on Friday. So, and then the last one here I'll mention on the site. You can take a look at this website if you want. Congress votes on a bill to deport immigrants for social security fraud, but 155 Democrats say no. Not too surprising, huh? All right, that's on HalTurnerRadioshow.com. Really good radio show as well as website. He's on the cutting edge as far as putting out the news. I think he does a really good job. He doesn't pay me to say so. I just happen to like the show, and Hal comes highly recommended from quite a few folks out there, including Steve Quayle, who's a friend of mine, and I think that Hal's really onto something. I think he does good work, and his radio show is very entertaining every night. He does a weekly broadcast, or I should say a daily broadcast, Monday through Friday. All right, let's keep going here. Speaking of the illegals, New York, illegal aliens who beat up cops are released without bail, and here's what they think about all of us. So this guy, Boada, was arrested and released and then flipped the double bird. Well, apparently he's American enough to know what that means. I guess that's probably the universal sign for you know what. So, it says 8 illegal aliens from Venezuela ganged up on a police lieutenant and a cop and beat them after the police broke up a disorderly group around 8:30 last Saturday. None have work permits, shocker, or any known relatives in the city. Prosecutors said that every defendant charged so far is facing felony charges that carry a penalty of up to 7 years. All but 5 who were arrested were released back on the streets without posting bail. A police source said that it is impossible for police officers to deal effectively with crime and disorder if the justice system can't or won't protect them. That's the whole idea. There's not supposed to be any protecting of the American people. Several of the men have prior records, including this guy, Revolver, who is accused of punching, biting, and assaulting retail store employees who tried to stop him from stealing in 2 separate incidents within the last few months. Then this guy pictured here is 22, flipping the double bird as he strolled out of Manhattan criminal court following his arraignment. Police say that he was wearing pink shoes, and a video of the assault shows a man in pink shoes kicking one of the cops in the head 3 times. And let me guess, it looks a lot like him. Former police officer Tatum explained why the migrants should be charged with attempted murder. He said that the defendants will not show up for the court dates because they are illegal aliens. That's exactly right. That's exactly why he's flipping the bird, right? It's a felony crime to live in the U.S. illegally. He said that the police would have been justified in shooting the attackers who kicked the cops in the head, but they're too afraid to do that because they're too afraid that they will also be imprisoned, just like so many other cops have been. So, yeah. Let's see. It mentions Tatum, Officer Tatum here. I'm looking to see if it's the same Officer Tatum. We had Officer Tatum on Lost Arts Radio several years back, and he was a former police officer and now helped people with personal protection and training and stuff. It was a really interesting guy. I think that's probably who they're talking about here. But that would be part of this video here, which I have not watched, but it is embedded on needtoknow.news if you want to check this out. This article is front and center. And if it's the same Officer Tatum, he's a really good guy and puts out some really good information. Chicago Alderman says illegal immigrants get $9,000 for housing vouchers, food, and childcare. Isn't that nice? Your tax dollars at work. Anthony Beale is an alderman, which is a city councilman in Chicago. He revealed the financial benefits that explains why migrants, especially Venezuelans, are flocking to his city. Chicago has been a sanctuary city since 1985, when Mayor Harold Washington issued an executive order with the designation. The order became law in 2006 and reaffirmed during the Trump years. The status as a sanctuary city means a municipality relaxes local enforcement of federal immigration laws. In Chicago, the city isn't supposed to ask about immigration status, disclose that information to authorities, or deny city services depending on immigration status. Anthony Beale sponsored a referendum to remove Chicago as a sanctuary city. So that's good, although don't hold your breath. However, Illinois is a sanctuary state. Chicago Alderman Beale said, now I've said this before, if you give me 3 meals, housing, childcare, education, and a voucher for $9,000, you know what? I would come to Chicago too, and that is what they're doing. They're telling people, and they're sending money back to Chicago, back to Venezuela, to come to Chicago because they're saying, hey, the good times are rolling. So, just so you guys know, $9,000 is going to the illegals in Chicago. $9,000. I'm assuming that is probably $9,000 each. They're taking care of everybody. Now, when we have Venezuelans that are driving cars, where did they get their driver's license? Right. Where did they get insurance from? Right. Like they have it, right. And then you have Venezuelans being caught with drugs and guns. Yeah, and never sent back. Because it's a sanctuary city. Welcome to Democrat politics. And also the Republicans that are just as bad. Many of them are. Of course, there's not very many Republicans in Chicago. I realize that. Okay, that one's on needtoknow.news. And this one too. Capitol Police investigation of gay sex video in the Senate hearing room finds no evidence of criminal activity. There's Biden and his buddy. Right there. I won't say what kind of buddy he is. But there he is. United States Capitol Police have concluded their investigation into a scandal about a gay sex video. They're all done. And they found that no one was harmed. Let me guess. I'm just guessing. I haven't read this. The sex video that was filmed in a Senate hearing room involved Aiden, however you say his name, a 24-year-old former aide to Democrat Senator Ben Cardin of Maryland. He faced potential charges ranging from trespassing to obscenity violations. The Capitol Police, and you know what they're responsible for, announced that after extensive consultation with prosecutors and a thorough investigation, no crimes appeared to have been committed. Compare this to the harsh sentences and treatment of the January 6th protesters. There is a two-tiered justice system in America. That's right. And we all know it, which was kind of somewhat alluded to in one of the videos that we watched earlier, talking about all of the patriot people who most likely will be getting the J6er type of treatment if they go to Texas and try and help out. I think that's what most people are saying at this point. So anyway, yeah, there's nothing indecent about it, apparently, according to the Capitol Police. No crimes. Taylor Swift's catalog was sold to the Carlyle Group and Soros. NATO proposed using her as an influencer. So she is now the Snow Queen. I've heard people calling her the Snow Queen. Thought that was kind of funny. Conspiracy theories, quote unquote, that Taylor Swift is linked to intelligence agencies may contain some truth. Jesse Waters aired a video of NATO's Psychological Operations Unit that posted a goal to identify key actors to train and spread desired messaging. And they mentioned Taylor Swift. She's more than willing and able, I'm sure. The posted goal can be seen in the video. Swift has an enormous influence on our culture. According to a Newsweek poll, 18% of voters, 18%, 666, said they'd vote for whatever candidate the singer endorses. Critics are worried that the so-called Swifties have the numbers necessary to sweep Joe Biden across the finish line in the next election. Or perhaps Michelle Obama, or whoever. If somehow old Joe isn't capable of running, which is kind of my guess. Conspiracy theories that Swift is linked to intelligence agencies may contain some truth, it says. Yeah, well, she's not the only one. Many entertainers, especially ones at that level, are co-opted by the CIA or name your three-letter agency. So anyway, there's a video embedded here, a tweet, and then some other video here with Judge Knapp. Says Swift's latest tour is shattering records. She reportedly made an estimated $900 million in ticket sales in 2023. Billboard reported that she grossed about $2 billion with a B altogether from music royalties, movie proceeds, touring, and concert merchandise. And of course, now she's the favorite of all the Kansas City Chiefs fans out there, which is really a bit ridiculous, but whatever. So anyway, yeah, that's another need-to-know.news article. And so is this one. Police arrest a 9-year-old and a 13-year-old for attempted robbery in D.C. It is the District of Criminals, after all. Crime has exploded in D.C., and children are now committing violent crimes. On Friday, January 6th, 2 boys ages 9 and 13 who should have been in bed approached the victim while she was walking home. One of the robbers hit the victim in the stomach and tried to grab her purse. The victim pepper sprayed one of the suspects. The second robber pulled out a knife and lunged at the victim multiple times. The victim was able to escape and call 911. Both suspects were arrested and charged with assault and intent to commit robbery while armed with a knife. Again, 9 and 13. Man, that is the world that we are living in at this point. I'm surprised it wasn't New York, but DC's every bit as bad as far as what's happening on the streets. Christian veteran who beheaded the satanic altar in the Iowa Capitol has now been charged with a hate crime. I'm sure you guys probably remember this story. This was from December. Okay, it says Christian veteran Michael Cassidy beheaded a statue of Baphomet with a goat's head and an altar in the Iowa Capitol on December 14th. The altar was installed by the Satanic Temple, with approval from the Iowa legislature. Of course it did. The display was highly controversial, as some argued that the shrine was crucial to religious freedom, and others argued that it was a deliberate insult to Christians, especially as it was placed near a nativity scene. Cassidy said he had beheaded the statue in order to awaken Christians to the anti-Christian acts promoted by our government. He was charged with fourth-degree criminal mischief, a misdemeanor. Another charge has been added, felony, third-degree criminal mischief, committed in violation of individual rights under Iowa's hate crime statute. So he's been charged with a hate crime. I don't know about you, but I personally hate evil. I think that, if you want to call it a hate crime, we're all guilty. Right? But that's exactly what they want. A hate crime. I hate evil. I don't know about you guys. Anyway, but the Bible calls for us to hate evil, right? And to love good, to love our God. So anyway, there's more on this story here, including some pictures. I guess there's the one tweet anyway here. The blasphemous statue. He says he saw the blasphemous statue and was outraged. My conscience is held captive to the word of God, not to bureaucratic decree, and so I acted. Cassidy turned himself in to the police after destroying the shrine. The Sentinel reported that the Satanic Temple of Iowa confirmed they intended to press charges, and indeed have. Polk County prosecutors have added a much more severe charge now, according to a charging document made public Tuesday. It says the register reports that Cassidy is now charged with a felony third-degree criminal mischief committed in violation of individual rights under Iowa's hate crime statute. Of course, they're probably going to do exactly what they've done with the J6ers, many of them, to this guy. But it's very much to be expected, right? Anyway, I just wanted to let you guys know. Bayer/Monsanto was ordered to pay $2.25 billion in their latest Roundup case. Roundup, you know, the weed killer. Bayer acquired Monsanto in 2018. Bayer was ordered to pay $2.25 billion, actual dollars, to a Pennsylvania man who said he developed cancer from exposure to the company's Roundup weed killer that contains glyphosate. The verdict included $2 billion in punitive damages to send a message that the company needs to change. Yeah, right. It's just the cost of doing business. They won't change. It says Bayer plans to appeal. Bayer phased out sales of the household version of Roundup last year. Around 165,000 claims have been made in the U.S. against the company for personal injuries, mainly non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. The company has paid out billions in various settlements in recent years. Note that they still exist. They've paid out billions, but they still exist. It's just like Big Pharma. It's the cost of doing business. And they see these lawsuits and these payouts as just something that's part of the cost of being in business, and in fact will continue harming people because it makes more money for them to do so than it does to not do so. Roundup is a weed killer that contains glyphosate, which researchers have called a, quote, probable carcinogen. Bayer says that studies show how its product is safe. The ones they've paid for is what they mean. And the company will appeal the verdict. A subsidiary of German pharmaceutical giant Bayer was ordered to pay $2.25 billion to a Pennsylvania man who said he developed cancer from Roundup. So thousands more claims. Roundup is among the top-selling weed killers in the U.S. Yes, and it's everywhere. It's literally in pretty much everything because it's airborne and it's also in the water tables. Who knows what will happen, and more power to him, I guess. At least he succeeded in that aspect of it. East Palestine, 1 year on. We lost everything. It's been a year to the day since a train, and this was dated yesterday, so February 3rd last year. Since a train carrying various toxic chemicals derailed in East Palestine, Ohio, yet as a federally managed recovery operation continues, still going on, locals still sometimes smell something rotten in the air. I can't tell anyone where I live without them having a look of sorrow. Casey Locke, a resident, told Newsweek, even though day to day we're trying our best to go about our normal lives in the best way that we all can, I will still always have an ill feeling when I think about how the rest of my family's life is going to go. Others have even left the area over fears about their health, while 2 nearby waterways continue to contain pollutants. Residents of the small border town had been getting home from work on this day in 2023 and having their dinner when their evenings were disrupted by the sight of smoke rising from a nearby railroad. The Norfolk Southern train had derailed about a quarter of a mile from the Pennsylvania state line, and a fire was burning. Little did the locals know that the incident would have an ongoing impact on their lives. Of 150 cars the train was hauling, a third were affected by the derailment in some way. 20 of those contained hazardous materials, some of which spilled into the nearby grounds and waterways, while the pressure rose in others due to the heat of the fire. Fearing a sudden explosion, emergency responders breached 5 cars containing vinyl chloride, remember, and diverted the chemical into a trench to be burnt off. And that was really where the main crime, I think, happened. The derailment as well, but because the derailment most likely happened on purpose. But the fact that they decided to explode these cars that had the vinyl chloride in it is what caused much of the problem. East Palestine was evacuated as officials warned that the controlled burn would send phosgene, used to attack trenches during World War I, and hydrogen chloride, which can cause serious irritation and tissue corrosion, into the surrounding atmosphere. When they were all allowed to return home, locals complained of symptoms associated with exposure to toxic chemicals, while those with private wells were told to drink bottled water while the water supply was tested. So anyway, there's quite a bit here. This is on a Newsweek article, which I know is mainstream media, but just wanted to mention that they are talking about it, which I guess that's good. However, it's bad that East Palestine is still suffering. And look for that to not change anytime soon, is my guess. Slay News, Biden spends $200,000 taxpayer money on a transgender app teaching men how to sound like women. Biden's administration has just invested $200,000 of American taxpayer money on a transgender app that teaches men how to sound like women. The huge grant was approved by Biden's National Institute of Health, NIH, in November. The grant, first reported by the College Fix, will be used to fund research for the smartphone app. The funds were approved by the NIH's Deafness and Other Communication Disorders Department. How about that? Then this person, a transgender associate professor at the University of Cincinnati, will be leading the project. The NIH approved $213,878 in funding from December of last year to November this year. So their team, Novak's team, which that's the transgender person, can create the app. They need almost $250,000 to create an app. Wow. According to project details, the app will apparently be used to train biological males who identify as transgender women to speak like women. That's what it's going to do. One reason for this is voice dysphoria, distress because a person's voice does not match their gender identity. Reducing this voice gender incongruence can improve quality of life, but it's difficult to achieve. How about impossible? Unbelievable. So yes, this is the way the Biden administration wants to spend your money. Are you surprised? Me neither. It's on Slay News. This is on Revolver.news. The CDC just accidentally proved the Great Replacement Theory is 100% real. The Great Replacement Theory, meaning the illegals coming here to replace us. Well, It looks like the Great Replacement Theory isn't just some wild conspiracy after all. The latest CDC figures show a clear and disturbing picture. Biden's administration is effectively swapping us out with a surge of illegals whom they're grooming to be the new voting bloc. The mainstream media is, as usual, acting as the regime's bodyguard and will quickly label anyone discussing the replacement theory as racist or laughingly dismiss them as kooks. But those numbers tell a different story. These numbers tell a different story and reveal what's really going on. No amount of name-calling or mockery from the media can cover up these disturbing facts. Libs of TikTok on X has posted the data. It says, this is the tweet. In September, there were 305,000 births in the United States. That same month, there were 341,000 migrant encounters. More illegals entered our country than children being born. They're quite literally replacing us. This is a feature, not a bug. Yeah. And then here's the graph. Here's a close-up of the image that was shared. Year, month, and then the number of live births and number of deaths. So you can look at, let's see here, January of last year, 300,000 live births, 289,000 deaths, right? CDC.gov is where this information all came from. We're being replaced right here and now, and it's happening blatantly without any apologies or excuses. Tucker Carlson has been spotlighting this theory for quite a while, and the intense backlash he's gotten has always been a strong indicator that he was onto something, even while he was still at Fox. Talking about the replacement immigration situation here. The clues about our replacement have been everywhere. If you're still under the misguided impression that the left prioritizes Americans, you might want to listen a bit closer. Their actions and words echo an America Last agenda at every turn. And let's be real, you can't replace a nation that's patriotic, strong, and powerful, can you? No, but you can kill us off, slowly and quickly, which I think they're in the midst of doing both. Another clue was how, when Biden took office, and he did take office, he systematically reversed every single Trump-era policy, especially those that effectively stopped the flow of illegals into the country. It seems like, I don't know if you guys remember, I played the video recently on I think it was a Bound report, maybe even last week, where when he was campaigning, when he was running for president, he said, when I get elected, immediately surge the borders. Everyone, surge the borders. That's what he said. It seemed like he was more focused on bringing people in than stopping them dead in their tracks. Congressman Daniels agrees that if Biden wanted to solve the border crisis, he could, but he doesn't want to. Why? The answer is likely found in those CDC numbers. So here's Representative Byron Donalds, who I think he does pretty good work from what I can tell. He's from Florida, and says, and if you're still skeptical about any of this, just take a moment to listen to Biden himself back in 2015 when he was VP with Mayorkas right beside him. In his own words, he lays it all out, unveiling his plan to phase out white people. So do we need to hear this?
An unrelenting stream of immigration. Non-stop. Folks like me who were Caucasian of European descent, for the first time in 2017, will be in an absolute minority in the United States of America. Absolute minority. Fewer than 50% of the people in America, from then and on, will be white European stock. That's not a bad thing. That's a source of our strength.
Yeah, so says Joe. That's the source of our strength. No, that's the source of your strength, because you want an all-new voting bloc. What's happening at the border is a deliberate strategy. It's the only plausible explanation for why Biden would dismantle effective Trump policies and then claim he's powerless to change the situation. We all see through that. Combine that with his own words and agenda, plus the staggering number of illegal immigrants flooding in, and the Great Replacement Theory starts to seem less like fiction and more like a page right out of Joe's playbook. I got news for you. It's not coming from Joe. He's helping to facilitate it, but it's coming from on high. It's coming from people above old Joe, don't you think? And I'm not even just talking about Barack Obama, who's the actual president right now. I'm talking about even beyond that. The people who actually run the world. Charlie Kirk drops interesting theory on why Fetterman is suddenly making sense. You guys may remember I mentioned this last week or two about, and even played some clips of Fetterman, supposedly Fetterman, and how he's making sense. And I thought it was very peculiar. Well, maybe this is an explanation. I don't know if it's the explanation, but I do think it's interesting. See what you guys think. What's going on with Fetterman? He's flipped the script from sounding as bewildered as Joe Biden to making sharp, coherent points, even venturing into some conservative topics. Yeah, because remember I was saying if you keep it up, Fetterman, you're not going to be reelected. That's what I said. They'll make sure that doesn't happen. Remember, Fetterman suffered a severe stroke which took a toll on his speech and cognitive abilities. At times, it was hard to watch him struggle, and you wondered why on earth the people of Pennsylvania sent him to the Senate. Well, they didn't. It was more brazen election fraud, nonetheless. And I've noticed, too, that he's, I don't know, maybe a little bit more dressing up than he was before. He was just like, looked like a total slob most of the time before. And I'm not so sure that he does as much now. I could be wrong. However, the dramatic improvement in his communication and mental clarity is turning heads. He's even dumped the progressive label and is now calling himself a regular Democrat, quote unquote, whatever that means. The shift has ignited lots of new theories, with the most outlandish, which I don't think is crazy at all. Just look at Joe Biden if you want another comparison here. The most outlandish being that Fetterman has been replaced by a body double. It's a theory that's gained traction online, fueled by amusing memes rather than concrete evidence. Intriguing to say the least, but let's hold off on that one for now. And then you can see the different versions of Fetterman there. Just look at the nose. The nose is different in some shots versus others, which, depending on when the pictures were taken, I guess it's possible that could be different. But he looks like a different guy. The ears are different. The shape of the head's different. It's pretty odd, isn't it? Self-proclaimed investigative journalist who once interned at the New York Times, shared a curious little tidbit on X. She goes by the name Misha, and is stirring the pot with claims that Fetterman and his wife have called it quits. So this is just what someone on Twitter is saying, but she does have connection to the mainstream media, which is kind of interesting. Supposedly, Giselle, which is his wife, deleted her Instagram as well. She deleted it, but then apparently it came right back. It's pretty weird that she reactivated her social media right after this report dropped. Revolver, which is the website we're on, can't confirm the rumors swirling about the breakup of their marriage. But then it says it's weird enough it caught the eye of conservative pundit Charlie Kirk, who's gone ahead and pieced together his own theory on Fetterman's new persona. And here's what he says. It simply cannot be a coincidence that John Fetterman started making sense at almost the exact moment he and his wife Giselle Fetterman apparently broke up. The question is, which came first? So, suppose she was drugging him or something? I mean, who knows? It says Giselle Fetterman was previously labeled as another power-hungry wife similar to Jill Biden and Hillary Clinton. She's pushed back on those claims, saying that all she ever wanted to do was quietly serve the people. Right. And then it says, is Charlie onto something here? Could Fetterman's communication struggles have been influenced by his wife, or maybe a change in medication? That's what I'm saying. Maybe it was the drugs. It's very odd. But then it goes on to say that maybe he's considering a White House bid in 2028. Well, I wouldn't go that far. But anyway, it is interesting. So that was kind of an interesting theory as to why Fetterman may be making sense now when he never did before. So yeah, Just taking a look at that. That's on Revolver.news. So is this one. This dystopian contraption is coming to your U.S. apartment building, and you will own nothing and be happy. The left's fixation on climate change is all about power and control, dictating what people can do and micromanaging every aspect of their lives, from their diet to their living conditions and daily routines. And speaking of living conditions, you probably heard about these pods that they're trying to glamorize, right? Imagine spending your life in something the size of a walk-in closet. How miserable. But the left paints this as some sort of green utopia. And so this is what it looks like. There's a video here about tiny homes, which you guys no doubt have seen. The WEF website calls their pods, quote, creative and stylish, and is pushing them as a way to curb homelessness. But you know, their broader plan is likely to have everyone living in one of these dystopian rooms. It's talking about this company, Fram Lab, explains that each pod is meant to comfortably, I would put that in quotes, hold a single person and can be tailored to fit their needs and lifestyle. So you can see how comfortable it looks. Look at that. It looks like living inside of a soccer ball or something. The agenda of the globalist green communist movement, which is also King Charles's main movement, right? That's the main thing that he talks about. It's pretty straightforward. Squeeze the peasants into the tiniest living spaces imaginable. Strip them of ownership. Dictate their diet, which are going to be bugs and plants, and limit their travel to where a bike or their own feet can carry them. Truthfully, that's a page straight out of how the oppressed people of North Korea live, and they're willing to die trying to escape that lifestyle. Yet, leftists seem to welcome this government-dictated existence, where they're instructed on how to live by wealthy elites who refuse to play by the same rules. It's either cult-like devotion, Stockholm Syndrome, or outright ignorance. Perhaps it's a combination of all three. So anyway, so that's on Revolver.news. This is a tweet talking about this particular unit here that's Tulu, where they have these, like computer printer and vacuums and things like that in this unit here that would be at the ground floor of this apartment building. These apartments are going to be like very tiny little apartments, and no one, she's talking about in this video how no one in her building would have a computer printer, so they would just rent the computer printer to print whatever they needed. So I think we should watch this. It's pretty short, so you'll get an idea of what's going on here.
Imagine you move into a new apartment building and this is what you see in the lobby. You don't have to buy your own vacuum, printer, or folding chairs because the building has it for you here. Tulu has come up with this concept, which is really basic, but I don't know why it's taken us this long to get here. And it's basically, they call it a smart rental store. And so as you can see here, there's vacuums. These are the robot floor cleaners. And then there's the printer. So I live in a small New York City apartment. I need to print things, but I don't have space for a whole printer. And so instead, imagine if this was in my lobby, then everyone in the building could just use this one printer. There's an app. You can go in and pick whatever you want to use. And no, my building doesn't have it, but yes, I was curious. So I downloaded the app and said I just lived in a different building. And these are all your options. I think this one hits home the most because I am so desperate to print. You could send it to that printer and pay 60 cents and just have it and be done with it. You don't have to buy the ink. You don't have to store the printer, and you don't have to buy a printer in the first place. I really wish Tulu was in my building.
Yeah, well, what she doesn't consider is the obvious. You see, I'm a realist. The realist part of me says, if this were to happen, then the printer would forever be out of ink. You would never be able to print anything because it would never have ink and no one would have access to any ink. The vacuum cleaners would forever be full or broken. You'd never be able to use them. And the same with every other piece of equipment in this box that they're showing. If you have a community, in this case an apartment building, all using these same pieces of equipment, no one's going to take care of them. So they will all get wrecked, nothing will work, and welcome to communism, right? That's what it is. And yet, this lady thinks it's really great because she can print something for 60 cents. Yeah, well, have you ever heard of FedEx? You can go into the FedEx printing places and print them for probably less than that, or a UPS store. You ever heard of that? Probably not. But, yeah, I mean, there's companies that specialize in that exact thing. You can take a file in and print it. You don't have to buy a printer. And you certainly don't have to join the communist onslaught to go about printing and vacuuming things. So I just thought that was kind of strange. It is definitely a dystopian contraption, for sure. Anyway, welcome to Tulu, right? You'll own nothing and be happy, according to Klaus Schwab. Juicy update. We know now exactly why Haley is bombing so badly in her home state. So we talked about Nikki Haley. I mentioned Darling Nikki a few times in the last week. I did a special post on Band about Darling Nikki. If you're in the Band group, you can see that. It's kind of an interesting thing. I mentioned last week how the way she spells her name reminds me of the old Prince song from the 80s, Darling Nikki. And in fact, I went back just because I'd forgotten how the song went. It's been so long. I listened to it again. I don't know, early in the week last week, and it reminded me that there's a backwards message at the end of the song, and that got me thinking. I forget what the message said. I remembered, reversing it so I could hear it years and years ago, but I forgot what the message was. But let's just say the message is very, very interesting and very pro-God, which the song itself is really dark and sort of... Nikki is a sex fiend, essentially, and she seduces the singer. We looked at that last week as far as on Wikipedia, where it mentioned what the song's about and so forth. So the song itself is fairly dark. There's a backwards message. It's called backmasking at the end of the song, and I took it. I'm an audio engineer. I took it and reversed it and put it in band so people could hear the before and after. I thought it was pretty remarkable, given how it was done in the early 80s. And how well it was done. So, but that is some of the inventiveness and genius of Prince. That's that's the kind of stuff that he came up with. So, if you're not a member of Band, you can hear it there. If you are, feel free to join the Band group. I think Emily will probably post the link at some point in the chat. So, feel free to join that, and you can hear the. I can't post the audio really anywhere public because it might get me in trouble as far as a copyright issue because it's not my recording. It's the Prince estate recording, and it's part of Warner Brothers Records and so forth. So it's very interesting, and just sort of a side note, I thought it was pretty cool backmasking message that he had implanted there into that song. So this is about Nikki Haley. It says, juicy update. Why is she bombing so badly? Have you ever wondered why the former governor of South Carolina trails Trump by almost 30 points? Yes, Trump's popularity is off the charts. He's a clear frontrunner, but a 30-point gap. That's not just a defeat, that's a landslide, especially for a former governor. So what's the story here? Well, it turns out we've got a piece of the puzzle, and it's as juicy and scandalous as it gets. I don't know about that. This is the story of Nikki Haley, a power-hungry woman who climbed to the top on the shoulders of friends and colleagues, only to betray everyone who helped her rise to political fame. Sounds like a politician, doesn't it? Now, when she needs them the most, they're returning the favor by turning their backs on her. So, anyway, not too surprising, I guess. It says, so what's Nikki Haley's explanation for her unpopularity back home? You guessed it. This is her explanation. She says, sexism and jealousy. Haley has quickly embraced the left's go-to strategy, identity politics. So that's what she says, that it's because of sexism and jealousy. That's why people aren't identifying with her. Ironically, Haley embodies the good old boy GOP, the good old GOP boy persona more than any of her or many of her male counterparts. She's a tried and true neocon who can't wait to reboot the failed globalist policies and compassionate conservatism, I remember that, nonsense of the 1990s, which are two of the biggest reasons that we're in this mess to begin with. In truth, Nikki Haley is more progressive than many of today's Democrats. And the reason why is because she's been part of their movement for some time, quite some time. Investigative reporter Laura Loomer uncovered an article from 2004 in which Haley admits to voting Democrat. So, there you go. Yeah, that's on Revolver.news. Elon Musk. Biden wants the border open to help Democrats in power. Says ex-boss Elon Musk has accused Biden of actively working to keep the southern border floodgates wide open as part of the effort to help Democrats stay in power. You don't say. It is widely believed that Democrats support open border policies because they view illegal aliens as future Democrat Party voters, of course. Musk, who has been a vocal critic of Biden's border crisis, ripped into the president in a post on X late Friday. It's not just the president. It is their gift. It's many other people above him. So it says, what did he say? Biden's strategy is very simple, Musk wrote. 1. Get as many illegals in the country as possible. 2. Legalize them to create a permanent majority, a one-party state. That is why they're encouraging so much illegal immigration. Simple, yet effective. All right. Pretty good report, I thought. Good information. And sorry about some of the graphic images there in that video. But yeah, that's what's going on. Thanks to Biden and company. Biden and Obama and whoever else is in charge of this American empire that we all find ourselves part of with no control. Just a car running off the side of the cliff at this point. All right, so Technocracy.news. Got a few headlines here to look at. U of M study, your urban garden has 6 times the carbon footprint than conventional farming. Says totally irrational war on carbon is already destroying farmers all over the world because they say the food system generates about 35% of total global man-made greenhouse gas emissions. Now they're claiming that your urban garden is 6 times worse. Brace for an all-out effort to ban or limit urban gardens for personal food production. I can already hear the climate crazies chanting, eat the bugs. So that's the first one. They're saying that the gardens are causing 6 times the carbon footprint than conventional farming does. Of course, they're banning conventional farming as well. All right, the next story on here. Podesta, portrait of a consummate technocrat and climate czar. Like a bad penny, John Podesta just won't go away. He's a former member of the Trilateral Commission, the founder of the Center for American Progress, and the leading architect of America's deleterious climate change plan starting in the 1990s when he served as Bill Clinton's chief of staff. I remember that. He's also very well known for his role in Pizzagate and his affinity for little kids. Right? He and his brother. TSA rolls out facial recognition to all federalized airports. The next step for universal facial recognition will be hotels, bus and train stations, rental cars, and entertainment venues. Then, commercial uses like stores and gas stations. Is this the mark of the beast that we're talking about here? The scanning, the implementation? When anybody says that the picture isn't saved, the metadata that is generated will be saved and transmitted to AI for analysis. And they say your picture is not saved. That's when you say, yeah, right. And turn around and walk away before they ever get a chance to scan it. So that's on Technocracy.news. Yeah, don't believe it for a second. Once it's scanned forever. And not only that, they share your information. Any sorts of, especially the private companies, share your information by selling it. They sell your information. That's how they make most of the income that they have, that they generate, is by selling your information, your data, to other companies, who can then market their products to you. Microsoft CEO says The company is working to address election disinformation and misinformation. Big tech is taking a bigger role in monitoring and moderating forms of online speech related to elections. So again, if we have an election, that will be a shocker to me. But there's supposed to be one. But don't you know, they will be suppressing and censoring everyone's speech between now and the supposed election, whether we have one or not. Doesn't matter. Concerns are growing over the role of big tech companies in moderating misinformation, particularly due to the fear of these corporations already wielding significant power and influence, which could potentially sway political outcomes, including elections. That's the whole point. Many worry that the concentrated power in these tech giants allow them to arbitrarily define what constitutes misinformation, leading to a situation where they could suppress certain viewpoints or information. That's exactly what they do. That's why they exist. Especially in the context of political discourse in the democratic process. The debate is fueled by the concern that these companies, due to their size and reach, could have a disproportionate impact on public opinion and the electoral process. That's already happened and happening. So, anyway, this is just talking about how Microsoft in particular is involved in that. So, definitely. Bill Gates' old company. All right, Liberty Beacon. Elmo, you know Elmo. Elmo's wellness check uncovers dread and despair, and many are blaming Biden. I don't think that worked like it was supposed to. Says the Sesame Street Muppet received thousands of replies from distressed social media users. Sesame Street's Elmo performed a wellness check on social media, which resulted in thousands of responses from Twitter X users expressing existential dread and despair, as well as lament over the economy and inflation in Joe Biden's America. But isn't he wonderful? Elmo is just checking in. How's everybody doing? Elmo is dumb enough to put that on his Twitter, then he's asking for trouble. The Muppet received thousands of replies. Says 3 Americans were bombed and killed this weekend, dozens more injured, weeks before 2 soldiers drowned at sea for Biden's newest war in the Middle East. So we're having a pretty crappy 3 years. Thanks for asking, Elmo, one person responded. Another one said, Elmo, we're about to kick off World War III, and many of the celebrities you hang out with have ties to pedophiles. You tell me, how are we doing? There's another one that says, Elmo, my man, you been to the grocery store lately? I don't know if you drive, but have you filled up a gas tank? Stop gaslighting us. You know it's real out here. So that was someone else's comment. A couple more here. Every morning, I cannot wait to go back to sleep. Every Monday, I cannot wait for Friday to come. Every single day, every single week for life. Another distressed social media user commented. America is struggling, Elmo. Act for America found. Bridget Gabriel wrote, we need Trump back. I don't think Elmo wants to hear that. Elmo, I'm suffering from existential dread over here, one person wrote. I'm wondering what Elmo's response was to all this. I would think he probably turned off the comments. Says the president was quickly slammed in the comment section of his post. What Joe Biden really needs to do is stop talking to Sesame Street characters and close the U.S. border. Maybe the Democrats would be better off nominating Elmo, someone else said. And the last thing was said was, you're just like Elmo, a puppet, talking to Biden. Pretty funny. Yep, that he is. So anyway, I was looking to see if there was an answer. Usually they shut off the comments or they delete the post. I didn't really see where that happened. But, Elmo is asking for trouble. You'd think he would know not to do that. Anyway, that's on Liberty Beacon. And this one too, I just mentioned this a minute ago. Podesta to succeed John Kerry as the U.S. climate envoy. Again, another unelected official. John Podesta will succeed John Kerry. Kerry steps down this spring and ceases his endless global tours, warning the world of impending doom. So that will now be John Podesta's job. So White House advisor Podesta will be the top U.S. climate diplomat when high-flying John Kerry steps down this spring and ceases his endless global tours, warning the world of impending doom. Yeah, so we've talked about old Kerry before as well. He was just recently seen at the Davos meeting of the minds, so forth, over in Switzerland back in January. Now, I came across this video earlier today, linked from a website, and thought it was kind of interesting. You guys might find it interesting as well. I'm just going to play a few seconds of it, and we'll see what you guys think, and definitely let me know. This is John D'Souza, which some of you guys may know who he is, talking about the Miami Mall alien invasion. Remember that from early January. And he has a kind of an interesting take on it. I wanted you guys to hear what he said. And this whole video is it's worth watching. It's 47 minutes, so it's kind of long, but it's definitely something worth checking out. So let me just go ahead and I'll stay on camera and we'll just listen to a little bit of this and see what you guys think.
The Miami Mall incident was on January 5th. It was on January 5th.
Was it? Yeah, it was. It was longer,
yeah.
Right.
And the cover story that was used was a group of teenagers were throwing fireworks at each other and resulted in the arrest of 4 teenagers. Okay, so that's your cover story. You have to grab that, look at it, and analyze it. Well, it looks like the fireworks explanation was necessary because of gunfire. Because apparently everyone in Miami has guns, and they started shooting at these aliens. So how do you cover up the sounds of the guns? You have to say, okay, it was fireworks. Okay, and then you have to say it was a big riot. 4 teenagers arrested doesn't sound like a big riot to me, but that's what they put in the reports. And then I received other intel from law enforcement that this was the cover story that was used was actually an incident that had happened previously, like 2 days before or something like that. And it was a real incident that really happened, but it was a couple of days before. So the police authorities were directed to use that story as the cover story because they had some real physical evidence of it because it actually did happen. I don't know. Go ahead.
Could these teenagers have opened a portal by accident somehow? Because I've heard that was also a story. Gene said that they were messing with some kind of technology that they could have made at home, frequency type technology that opened up they needed the power from the mall. They plugged it in at the mall or something like that, and the machine kind of started opening up these portals. Could that be? Is that what you're hearing?
There were several witnesses who saw that and who reported that they did see a group of, I guess, young adults, I would say, young adults who were dressed kind of flashy. He described it, just kind of flashy. And they were wheeling around what looked like a television VCR device. And they were just wheeling it around. And then they found a place to plug it in and use the power from the mall, like you said. And they were able to start creating a portal and start creating that. And that portal started to manifest some kinds of creatures that came out of that thing. And
so these kids knew. So do you think these kids developed this technology and then knew they needed a bigger power source, a more powerful power source, and plugged it into the mall to make it work?
No, I don't even believe that those were kids at all. I believe that they were probably young-looking adults who were agents for the cabal, who were funded and sponsored, and were probably what you call sort of like a special forces team, flyaway team that is able to go places and do ceremonies and rituals to manifest whatever the cabal wants at that moment. So in effect,
this could be the beginning of the government playing the alien card.
Oh yeah,
Wow.
it's been the beginning, but it's not really the beginning, because like I'm trying to tell you, this has happened before. We just had it happen. Let me see. We had one happen in Las Vegas. Which was when was this? I'm looking at the info right now. It was in Las Vegas in a family's backyard. And the backyard family, the same things, 8 to 10 foot aliens. I'm trying to see what date this happened. This was in September of 2023. And there was a family called the Kenmore family that called to 911. They reported 2 10-foot aliens in their backyard after extensive UFO activity right over the neighborhood that was visible to everybody in the neighborhood. And
so would these ones be coming from another dimension, or would these ones be coming from another planet?
No,
there's UFO activity.
They are extra dimensional. There was mention also from these people of some qualities of what do you call that, glitching, sort of ephemeral, kind of like is this thing tuning in, like you're changing,
like fading in out of a reality.
Yes, there were reports of that.
Okay,
So
I've seen UFOs over by White Sands. Okay, when I was heading to Ruidoso for a trip, I was gonna go just for the weekend, and I remember driving at night, and I was with somebody, and we looked up, and there was all these. They looked like beautiful constellations of UFOs, and they would fade into our reality, then fade out, fade in, fade out, and then make another constellation, and they were changing colors, and then fade away, and then come back with another one, and then every time I took my phone out, they would completely disappear, like they were conscious. They were conscious of what I was doing. Every time I pulled the phone out, boom, they were gone. I was like, that's incredible. Is it kind of like that? Because it looked like it was fading in and out of our reality.
Exactly. And that's why everyone in the world is now coming around to the extra dimensional hypothesis, where they are actually admitting and starting to really believe that maybe these things aren't fully physical, but they are partially physical. So that's what we have to remember when we're approaching these things. So that happened in Las Vegas. It was a big story at the time when it did happen, because this family that reported it had absolute authenticity. I mean, you could tell they were telling the truth. You could tell that they were being honest and forthright in everything that they were saying.
All right. So, kind of interesting, I thought. And, there's obviously a lot more to this. And he goes into his explanation of extra dimensionals, what that really means. And his definition of it's pretty wild. It's basically these beings are phasing in and out of our reality, and that they're not completely physical. So I thought that's kind of interesting. I don't know that I'd ever really heard that per se, and I don't think he's even saying that all of them are this way, but certainly can explain why you have this, phase issue where you can see them and then they disappear and then they're back and then they disappear again. Pretty wild. So yeah, that is again, YouTube video, Miami Mall Invasion, John D'Souza's channel, and we'll link to this in the Substack post tomorrow. I'll embed the video in there so you guys can check out the whole thing if you want to. I thought it was pretty good. And I've heard him before on some other radio shows or podcasts, I guess. And one thing I remember him saying that kind of stuck with me was he got the question about flat Earth, and he said what I've been saying for a long time. And sorry, flat Earthers out there, but that is that the whole flat Earth thing has been thought up, has been come up with and put out there by the three-letter agencies, primarily as a cover for Hollow Earth, which I do tend to think is probably real. So because you have all the vast tunnels and domes and all this Hollow Earth situation that, to me makes a lot of sense. And I don't know if you can have that on a flat Earth, if it was even possible. So I've heard him mention that before, and I know that's one thing that I have seen him talk about in the past. So pretty wild. Anyway, that's a YouTube video. You guys can search for it if you want to see it right away. Is there a Taylor Swift Psyop? And we mentioned the singer a little while ago, and this is on Zero Hedge. So this was kind of interesting. Welcome to the Matrix. The current news cycle gives the impression that Taylor Swift is everywhere. According to Bloomberg data, corporate media headlines featuring Taylor Swift, quote unquote, began ramping up in the first half of 2023 and hit new record highs later in the year. You can see how it's ramped up here. The singer, who has made an entire career whining about having chosen the wrong men, has been pitched by legacy media as finally finding the perfect match, Kansas City Chiefs Travis Kelce. Taylor Swift net worth, who I would also add, for you guys that don't know, I don't really follow football that closely, but some family members certainly do, and this guy is the biggest you could possibly imagine. He's taking every cent he can get and out there promoting the book every chance he gets. Absolutely shameless what this man is doing. So, with that as a background, the tweet here says, Taylor Swift net worth in April of 23 before she started dating Travis Kelce is $570 million. Taylor Swift net worth in January of this year, after she started dating Kelce, is $1.1 billion. So, doubled? It's all starting to make sense now. Yeah, the relationship doesn't pass the sniff test. We'd have to ask old Joe about that, though, wouldn't we? Given Taylor's terrible choices with men, says let's begin with, and then talks about some of these other people, I guess. Let's see. During NATO meeting, the idea for Taylor Swift to be used as a Psyop for the Pentagon was brought up. It looks like they decided to go with this route. She blew up everywhere. So she's been plastered everywhere, yeah. So it is very interesting when you start looking at things like that. Perhaps it's not by chance that the story count in corporate media for Taylor has exponentially exploded, averaging above 1,000 per day since late September. Taylor's surge comes as legacy corporate media is terrified about the rise of alternative media. Wall Street Journal editor-in-chief admits we no longer own the news. I think that's good information. Good to know. Anyway, yeah. So, yeah, is it a PSYOP? I think so. It would make sense. Here's the real puppet master to Taylor. If he owns her catalog, that means he's making more money off of her than she's making. Says, while it remains to be seen if she becomes a NATO asset, certainly Democrats appear to be salivating all over her ahead of the presidential election to turn Swifties into blue voters. Makes millions singing about her bad choices in men, and she endorses you-know-who. So that's a pretty good meme. Good one to end this little article on, I think. Kind of sums it up, doesn't it? So, yeah. Not good. Breaking, federal whistleblowers expose plan for Biden-directed false flag at the border. We were just talking about some version of that possibly happening earlier in the show. Tim Enlow, Chase Geiser InfoWars crew joined Alex to discuss how federal agents at the border have shown them Biden's latest secret alert claiming white supremacists are planning an imminent attack on Border Patrol and migrants in South Texas. See how that works? And they will make sure that they won't screw it up quite as badly as they did J6, the whole J6 situation, where they were just letting people in and peacefully come in and stay in between the velvet ropes and just look like a bunch of tourists. In fact, they will probably start shooting, is my guess. But we'll see. We'll see. Hopefully that won't happen. But this is dated a couple days ago now, so who knows? But this is on InfoWars, is where that one is. Speaker Johnson releases list of 64 Biden policy decisions that undermined border security. In his maiden speech from the House floor, Speaker Johnson highlighted a list of 64 actions taken by Biden that undermine border security. List includes Biden directing border wall construction to end on his first day on the job and submitting legislation calling for a pathway to citizenship for illegals. Yep. He also noted that Biden lifted limitations and restrictions against immigration from certain countries associated with terrorism that Trump had put in place. So here's the block of 64 things. It's on here if you guys want to check it out. It's embedded in this tweet here. But this is on westernjournal.com. So pretty interesting, huh? Inside China's execution conveyor belt, how mobile injection vans and firing squads are used to put thousands to death a year, outstripping capital punishment figures for the rest of the world combined. And this is what they want to turn the U.S. into, China. China West. Under China's draconian laws, as many as 46 crimes carry the death sentence. For Beijing, the number of people it executes each year is a closely guarded secret, but rights groups estimate it to be in the thousands. Yeah, we had a guy on Lost Arts Radio several years ago who was living over in Southeast Asia and routinely reporting on what was going on with the organ harvesting situation in China. So I'm familiar with it based on that information, but it would make sense that they would just disappear people. Mobile death vans, firing squads, and lethal injections. These are all methods used by China to carry out more state-sanctioned executions than all other nations combined. And here's the chart. Executions worldwide in 2022, thousands. Yeah, there's just no way to know. It could be hundreds of thousands or more. We don't know. No one knows. So, not a shocker. That's on Daily Mail. And then Information Liberation. U.S. bombs Yemen in wake of bombing Syria and Iraq. Longest pause in human history. RFK Jr. freezes up when asked about Israel's influence on America. So that's kind of interesting, huh? U.S. launches strikes on Iraq and Syria in wake of Jordan drone attack. Yep. But they're blaming Iran, right? Biden curses Trump in private and calls him a sick you-know-what. Fire truck. He's a sick fire truck, according to Biden. Pretty funny. So there's quite a few pretty good headlines over there on Information Liberation. And then Gateway Pundit, we've got a few articles to look at from there. Senate's long-awaited border bill released allocates $60 billion to Ukraine. It should say $60 billion more to Ukraine, but only $20 billion for U.S. border security. And believe me, they won't actually use it to secure anything. There's the two pals. Senate leaders on Sunday released the details of a long-awaited comprehensive border security bill, which also contains a substantial foreign aid component. You don't say. 370-page deal claims it reflects weeks of good faith negotiations, balancing domestic concerns with urgent international aid needs. Yeah, right. As Ukraine runs low on ammunition to fend off Putin's brutal invasion, it's imperative that we finally extend our support. Yeah, like we haven't been yet. We haven't already been giving them hundreds of billions in aid. And they're not already buying mansions in Switzerland. And Zelensky himself owns some palatial estate, apparently, in Hawaii or in Florida. So, anyway, not too surprising, but this is on Gateway Pundit. And this one too, TSA rolling out worrying new tech at more than 400 airports. Just in case your opinion of the TSA wasn't low enough already, now they're going to be getting even more of your biometric data. New facial scanning units at over 400 airports in the U.S. and is currently working with the Department of Homeland Security's Research and Development component to analyze data to ensure that new units are working correctly. Yes, that's important. The latest CAT scanners, don't they have those in hospitals? Known as CAT-2 units, incorporate facial recognition technology by taking real-time pictures of travelers and then comparing those images against their photo IDs. That is part of the BEAST system, right? TSA first demonstrated these CAT-2 units in 2020 and began deploying the new screeners at airports in 2022. A January 12th press release from the agency said it added 475 CAT-2 upgrade kits utilizing the facial recognition technology in 2023. Given the fact that the average American traveler has what can be charitably described as a low-trust relationship with the TSA, they're making this sound as normal as apple pie and insisting the data that's being collected will be minimal. Sure. And I actually believe that. Do you actually believe that? Not a chance. Not a chance. Nope. They're training us to be slaves. That's the whole purpose of the TSA. They're training us to be slaves so that anything that they bring in and call part of the system and call it for security, the name of security, then we'll put up with it in order to travel. CAT-2 units are currently deployed at nearly 30 airports nationwide and will expand to more than 400 over the coming years, which is probably going to be very soon, I'm guessing. So, yeah, CAT-2. So there's quite a bit of information here on this article. You want to check it out. And then the toxicology report for the 3 dead Chiefs fans. We were talking about Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce is on the Kansas City Chiefs, and I don't know if you guys knew about this, but there were several fans who were found dead in someone's backyard. So it says initial toxicology reports on the 3 men who died at a friend's house in early January after coming by to watch a Chiefs game indicate cocaine, THC, and fentanyl were found in the victims. David Harrington, Clayton McGeeney, and Ricky Johnson were found dead in the backyard of a house on January 9th. On January 7th, they had gone to the home of Jordan Willis to watch a Kansas City Chiefs football game. Multiple media outlets reported that the initial toxicology reports were in, but as of Friday morning, police had not released the results. Well, I guess they have now. Apparently, 3 substances were found. Cocaine and other illicit substances were discovered in early toxicology reports. For Kansas City 3, detectives tell the victim's family. Cocaine and fentanyl and what was the other thing? THC. So, wow. It was a very strange story for sure, and we're down to, I guess it's Super Bowl next week. I think that's happening next Sunday on the 11th. And it's the Chiefs and the 49ers? Something like that. Not that it matters, but it is interesting that Taylor Swift's boyfriend will be playing in the Super Bowl. And let me guess, they're going to win. I'll just put it out there now. If in fact the Swifties are indeed part of the American empire, I would say that there's probably no chance that the Chiefs don't win the Super Bowl, because that will make their Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift's influence go even higher. So they have a lot riding on this game. They can't afford to let the San Francisco 49ers win the game. Let's just say that. So, pretty wild. Speaker Johnson drops the bomb. Biden is not the one in charge. Well, we all know it. He just said it out loud. He says, House Speaker Johnson just handed out some serious ammunition to those who have been saying for years, in some cases, that Joe Biden isn't actually running the country. I'm not sure Joe Biden is actually making these decisions. Louisiana Republican said of Biden's immigration policies during the interview on Fox Business. Johnson told Maria Bartiromo on Mornings with Maria that he felt that Biden's staff was preventing him from taking executive action to secure the U.S. border with Mexico like he wants to. That's sort of giving him the proverbial pass, it sounds like to me. Johnson said he's been trying for weeks to convince the president to reinstitute the Remain in Mexico policy first put in place by Trump. Biden has insisted that he lacks the authority to take those actions, even though Trump took them, and Johnson himself has explained to the president that he already has everything he needs to start securing the border. Yes, but you can't do that when you're at air, which he is. It says, I've read to him the law myself, to the president, read him the provisions of the law, and said, Mr. President, please take action. Biden nonetheless continues to argue that he cannot act unless Congress does so first. Yeah, and also unless Barry says so. If Barry says so, then he can probably do it. I'm not sure Biden's actually making these decisions. So I think he's kind of giving him the pass here, explaining that he thinks it's the staff that's running the show, but it's not the staff. It's Barack Obama and team. Biden regime expanding intrusive facial recognition scans to all 430 federalized airports. I would say it'll be on all of them, all airports, pretty soon. But we mentioned this earlier, but there's further information there if you're interested. Life-threatening extreme weather expected to plague Taylor Swift's shot at Grammys history. Perhaps she saw it coming. Only if she's involved in the geoengineering programs as well, which I doubt that she has that sort of influence. So why'd you have to rain on my parade, Taylor Swift saying on This Is Why We Can't Have Nice Things, according to the website Genius. The lyrics from her 2017 album Reputation are fitting as both the Grammy Awards and a massive downpour approach Los Angeles on a collision course. This is shaping out to be a life-threatening flooding situation, especially during the Sunday through Monday time period, National Weather Service said. Well, that's just part of the scheduled weather. They should know that by now. Not sure that old Taylor knows about that, though. Los Angeles could get up to 5 inches of rain from Sunday through midweek, with 8 to 9 inches possible in the mountains. This is the type of rain that they cannot handle. No kidding. I used to live there, I know. This is a guaranteed flood setup. There's no way around it. We know it's going to be bad, and there's going to be huge impacts. It seems like they had some floods maybe a year or two ago, very similar. So anyway, something to keep an eye on. We'll watch what happens. But yeah, there's nowhere for all the water to go in Los Angeles, for sure. Let's see. Looking to see what it's talking about here. Sunday night's Grammy Awards, which was tonight, is noted by Forbes. Swift's Midnights is in contention for Album of the Year, which would be her fourth album, and put her in a class by herself. She's currently tied with Stevie Wonder, Paul Simon, and Frank Sinatra, all of whom also have 3 albums that were so honored. Swift's also in the running for Song of the Year for Anti-Hero, her song. Deadline reported the peak of the downpour will come as the red carpet is rolled out for the VIPs, that traffic issues from the weather could make it difficult for stars and other attendees to even make it to the ceremony. Oh, they made it. We're going to talk about that in a minute. Red carpet starts much earlier. Expect umbrellas to be the night's hottest accessory. Yeah, whatever. So anyway, that was from Gateway Pundit. And then with regard to that, yes, unfortunately, they did all make it to the festivities. I've never been to a Grammy Award show and wouldn't go if I were invited. However, I always had the option as a former Grammy member, but so many people are Grammy members now. It's really been watered down compared to the way it was. I mean, they did let me in after all. But I have since left the Grammy organization. I was never really involved much anyway. All I did was used it as part of a nicety to have on my resume was all. And then voted maybe a couple different times was all I ever did with it. But then in 2020, I left the Grammy.com website. Where I left the Recording Academy in 2020. I actually have a blog post here on my website, diamonddiscaudio.com. Why I left the Recording Academy in 2020, and this was my letter to them, and then I subsequently decided to not renew my membership was all. I'll link to this in the Substack post. I won't bother reading that now, but anyway, it says here's the 2024 Grammy Award winners. Let me refresh this and see. Yeah, this has got all of the winners here. So spoiler alert, if you don't want to know who won the awards, like you care, not that it matters, right? Record of the Year was Miley Cyrus, not Taylor Swift, but Album of the Year was Taylor Swift, apparently. She did not win Song of the Year. I'm looking to see if she won any others right offhand. Best Pop Vocal Album, she did win that. So yeah, it looks like she won several. Not too surprising. Anyway, it's all here on this NPR article. So I didn't even know who that was. That's Miley Cyrus, accepts Grammy Award for Record of the Year. So anyways, yeah, not too exciting, and I guess they did have the festivities even in the rain. So yeah, why I left the Recording Academy in 2020. We'll link to that in my Substack post tomorrow if you guys want to read that. It's kind of self-explanatory. You guys have heard me talk about mentioning. I've mentioned this type of thing many times on what I believe and why I believe it's not really appropriate for me to be involved in that organization. So I left back then and never looked back, and don't miss it one bit. But again, I wasn't really that involved. It's just one of those things where if you're in the music business and you're part of the Recording Academy, it has some sort of, I guess it has some sort of mystique about it or something, you know. But I don't really need it, and I'm kind of beyond needing that sort of thing on my resume at this point. So I just kind of left and never looked back, as I said. All right, a couple more Gateway Pundit articles. Indiana schools are installing translation stations for students who don't understand English. Translation stations. How are they going to, if they're called that and they print that on the translation station, how are they going to know what it says if they can't understand it? The state of Indiana has installed translation stations in several public schools in Johnson County. So for all of you Hoosiers out there, I'm sure you'll like this. News Nation reported the new technology looks very similar to a copy machine. However, its function differs significantly. It works by students placing their tests, their notes, their flyers, or any other type of document into the machine, and within seconds, the machine translates the English into the language of the student's choice. You can pick over 300 languages. So it scans it and converts it from English into whatever. So they don't have to bother learning English. They can just keep doing what they've always done and never change. You don't have to come into this country and learn English anymore because you have machines now that will translate what they're saying, so no need. Right? We have students come to our district. This is the first time they've ever been in American schools. Yeah, because they're illegals. It's a very diverse district, probably more diverse than a lot of people know. Aren't they liberal and loving? As the border crisis continues with no end in sight, expect more translation stations to become the new norm. This kind of sums it up right there. That's why I brought up this story. So yeah, just look for that to become the norm, just like I just read. Resident shows off disturbing secret of East Palestine creeks ahead of Biden's visit. I didn't even know he was planning to go. They're lying to you. President Biden is scheduled to visit East Palestine, Ohio this month. He still hasn't been there. The site of a train derailment a year ago. Biden was criticized at the time for not traveling to see the effects of the accident. Yes, and something will probably still come up, by the way. We'll see. Says there's good news for Biden. Then, according to a resident and a local environmental expert who has tested water and soil near the derailment site, Biden can still see the effects of the accident because they haven't been fully cleaned up despite official claims to the contrary. News Nation spoke to a local resident who's become so frustrated by the government response that he's running for Congress. They're either inept or there's something nefarious going on, he said. Well, I think it's both, but primarily the nefarious part. Yeah, East Palestine. So we'll see how that works out. Staffers who filmed the gay sex in the Senate hearing room will not be charged, as this is apparently less offensive than grandmas walking around with flags in the Capitol. The cesspool of D.C., the new harlot of Babylon. Talking about how they're not going to be pressing charges. 0 penalties for filming porn in the inner sanctums of Capitol Hill. Meanwhile, there are men and women rotting in jail without trial for more than 3 years. More than 3 years after Trump supporters were let into the Capitol building. Most of those supporters meandered respectfully around the building. Capitol Police even guided them around. And here's a tweet from ex-Saturday Night Live guy, Norm Macdonald. I loved when the violent terrorists made sure to respect the velvet ropes in Statuary Hall. Yes, they're so violent. Look. Grandmas with cancer were sent to jail for even the perception that they had gotten in the way of officers. The FBI is still sending SWAT teams to hunt down people accused of hitting or pepper spraying officers, while those who burned down cities for BLM are sitting nice and comfy in their homes. Yeah, and some of those people are getting big, huge payouts. Big settlements through the courts. So, I know you guys know this, but it's just, they have a lot of info here in one place, which this is good if you want to share this article. I think it's a good one to kind of get the point across. So yeah, there's more info on notthebee.com, a couple more from there. And here's a kind of a, I always like to try and include a happy story. This is a happy story. To warm your heart. America's oldest living person is celebrating her 116th birthday this weekend with a drive-by parade. She doesn't look 116, not that I've seen that many 116-year-olds, but she's aged well. It says Edith Seccarelli of Willits, California is celebrating her 116th birthday on Monday, February 5th. So really today. It's after midnight here, so it's today. She was born to Italian immigrants in 1908 in the same town she lives in today. To put that in perspective, that was the same year that outlaws Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid were killed. Needless to say, she has seen a lot in her 116 years. This is her in front of this car here, sitting on the running board at age 24 in 1932. This year she'll celebrate her birthday on February 4th with a drive-by parade, which has become a major community event in the small town where she was born and raised. Pretty wild. She's currently the oldest person in America and the oldest person ever to live in California, and the second oldest person in the world, behind Maria Brañas of Spain. And I bet, I'm just guessing, but I bet, Edith here probably didn't take. What do you guys think? Canada halts euthanasia for the mentally ill, citing lack of doctors willing to participate. I thought this was good news. I don't know if it's true, but I do think it's, if so, it's really good news. The authorities said a lack of doctors willing to assess patients means euthanasia will not be made available to the mentally ill yet. Canada has frozen a plan to expand its assisted suicide program to include people suffering from mental illness. Health Minister Mark Holland and Justice Minister Arif Barani has announced. Among the reasons for the postponement, they cited a lack of medical professionals, especially psychiatrists, willing to evaluate patients before the lethal injection. So how about that? People saying no and not going along with the crazies. Canada legalized euthanasia after the Supreme Court ruled in 2015 that required people to cope with intolerable suffering was tantamount to violating their basic rights. I guess so, therefore they should die. In 2021, the Superior Court of Quebec demanded that the government expand the criteria to those suffering from grievous and irredeemable conditions such as depression and other mental health issues. The law's separate provisions for people with mental illness were originally postponed for 2 years. So kind of interesting that got some doctors here saying they won't be part of it. A number of psychiatrists, for their part, have voiced concerns that patients could bail out of treatment schemes that do not provide immediate relief and opt for the easy way out instead. So in 2022, a total of 13,241 people chose to end their lives this way, with 463 of those being individuals whose natural deaths were not reasonably foreseeable. Wow. And then I found these two little memes or political cartoons. I've done all I can, he says. He's working on it. And one more. Speaking of Punxsutawney, this is Punxsutawney Joe, though. Looks like another 9 months of the border crisis, foreign policy crisis, and energy crisis. He comes complete with the ice cream cone. So that was what was discovered, I guess, on February 2nd, when the groundhog came out as well. Pretty funny. Anyway, something nefarious is going on. East Palestine creeks still visibly contaminated with chemicals. So more East Palestine or Palestine info here. This is on modernity.news. Oh, yeah, I remember this. Video, reporter asks if Biden will drink the water in East Palestine. That's funny. So, yeah, at least people are remembering the whole East Palestine thing. Media still claims Biden campaign and Taylor Swift plot is a conspiracy theory. Mentioned that earlier, but there's more on modernity.news on that. Okay, vaccineimpact.com. I've made you a watchman. Hear the word. I speak and give them warning from me. Are you being called by God to be a watchman for the disaster ahead? Will you go against the crowd and obey your calling, no matter what the cost might be? It's a good question. It's an article on vaccineimpact.com. So if you're feeling the tuggings of the Lord, maybe have a read through that little article there. Christian leaders push mental health and trusting medical doctors rather than trusting the Jesus of the Bible to deal with life's problems. That sounds about right, doesn't it? The Texas Wall Civil War theatrics, showtime. Grab your popcorn and enjoy the show. Governor of Texas or a Zionist puppet. So there he is with his little hat on. Worshipping at the wall, which of course is simply the former Roman fortress, right? That's what it is. The wall, the Western Wall, is not part of the old temple. That was all torn down. There was not a stone left on top of another stone, just as Jesus said. So if you believe the Western Wall is part of the original temple, then you also don't believe that Jesus told the truth in that line in the Bible when he in fact said there won't be any stone left on top of another stone. And the reason they took all the stones off of each other was because much of the gold had melted down between the cracks in the stones, and they removed the stones so that they could scoop the gold out, the melted gold that was between the cracks of the stones once the temple was fallen. So anyway, pretty interesting, and they're worshiping at a Roman fortress. That's the bottom line. So let's see. I think that was the end of the articles, the new ones that are on Vaccine Impact. And then let's see, GeoWatch for this week, geoengineeringwatch.org, February 3rd. This is yesterday's Global Alert News called Engineering Deluge. So we were talking about what was getting ready to hit and is now in fact hitting California. You can take a look at this. Imminent deluge. Southern California braces for potentially catastrophic storm. From Yahoo News, a manipulated atmospheric flow of moisture is scheduled, it's keywords there, for the southwestern U.S. during the same span of time and beyond. The eastern half of the U.S. is scheduled for an extended period of record high temperatures again. The Great Lakes region is in the bullseye zone of the big winter warm-up. Wildfires are raging from South America to South Africa, and even Canada's record firestorms of 2023 are not yet completely extinguished, though it's the middle of winter. Global conflicts, chaos, and carnage continue to escalate in lockstep with unfolding planetary ecological collapse, and through it all, the dimming of our skies gets worse by the day. How long till impact at full velocity? That is a good question. That's from my good friend Dane Wigington on geoengineeringwatch.org. That is this week's show. Make sure you check that one out. Good information there. You can also find him on Rumble and BitChute. Just search Dane Wigington or geoengineeringwatch.org. Rumble and BitChute. Same show this week on all three platforms as well as on Spotify. The audio version on Spotify if you want to check that out. Prayers for rain that began on October 7th are being answered as precursors to resurrection of the dead. Thought this was kind of weird. As Israel experiences several weeks of heavy rain, the Sea of Galilee's water level rose some 15 centimeters during the last 36 hours due to said rainy weather, which is expected to continue for several days. One prominent rabbi noted that Israel began praying for rain on October 7th, the holiday of Shimini, however you say it, as Hamas terrorists began their massacre. Hamas terrorists. And no mention that the IDF did most of the killing, or much of the killing. And no mention that the IDF has also been absolutely slaughtering and genociding the people in the Gaza Strip. No mention of that. Why would we? No, we only talk about what happened to the Jews. See, that's all we can talk about, is what happened to them. The Jews who were not Jews, right? According to the Water Authority, the lake's water level now stands at 210.65 meters below sea level, or 1.85 meters below its full capacity. Forecasts also prompted authorities to close off hiking trails in the Negev and near the Dead Sea for fear of flooding. So it sounds like they're getting what they were praying for, although it's probably also highly geoengineered, I'm guessing. Don't know for sure, but as all of these things tend to work together, that's probably what's going on. So anyway, that's on Israel 365 News, where that is, and U.S. debt clock for this week. Let's take a look at the secret window. I looked at it earlier today, and it was the same one that I showed you guys last week, but I think it's different now. They must have known we were getting ready to do this show because they changed the artwork. Upgrade your thinking. It's got the picture of the U.S. Department of the Treasury and the fiat money here, and then upgrade your thinking. We've got the cross and the information here pointing to Jesus and the Bible. So, pretty simple, but that's this week's message on the U.S. debt clock. And let's see. I guess that's all. I think we've reached the end here. We've got maybe, another video or so if we get that far, but let me take a look at the questions and comments and see if you guys had anything for me. It looks like you guys have been chatting away in the YouTube chat, at least. Not much going on in... there's some chatting going on, I guess, in Rumble. Welcome, Rumblers. Are you guys over there on Rumble? Quite a few people watching on Rumble tonight, so thank you. And when you put things in the chat on Rumble, it does not show up on the screen here that everyone sees. It's only the YouTube chat and the one of the two Facebook pages shows up over there. So, and then that's the same way with those numbers in the bottom right corner down there, where it's showing the number of people watching. That's only showing 2 of the 4 platforms. So I should mention that little caveat. That doesn't mention the other Facebook page, and it doesn't mention Rumble. There's no way to tie it together to get that information. That's why it's not showing there. But as of right now, it's considerably more than that with those other 2 pages added in. So, but yeah, there's lots of chatting going on here. So if you guys are interested in taking part in chat here and or continuing it, the best place to do that is if you're not here live, then join the band group. That's something that we definitely like promoting. It's totally free, and there's no catch. I mean, if you don't know what band is, it's just like I like to compare it to the way Facebook used to be before they started censoring people. And then let's look at it here. It is right here. This is we got a few new members this week. That's good. Diamond Report on band.us. Just go there and have a look. You don't have to sign up for anything. Just go to band.us and have a look around. If you happen to already be on Band, you can do a search for the Diamond Report and probably find it. However, Miss Emily has posted in chat on Rumble and on YouTube the direct link to the group if you guys want to join. But that is where you can go and continue the conversation and get to know each other in there. Because lots of people like to come tune into this broadcast and chat amongst themselves while I'm going over the news. And that's totally fine. I get that. And it's good to have friends and community and stuff. So, I would definitely encourage that. We don't censor anybody. So, I mean, unless you're a troublemaker or something, you might, which we haven't had that issue. But if you're a troublemaker, you could end up on the wrong side of things. But for the most part, I think most people are just interested in making friends for real. And I think Band is a good place to do that, and nobody's going to censor what you're saying, including the platform. They're not going to censor you either. You can talk about anything you want, which is nice. So anyway, lots of good things to say about Band. I've been using their platform for quite a few years for different clients and never had any issues with it at all. So yeah, I think it's a good one, and certainly worth going and registering for free. And you can join the Diamond Report group or any other groups on there. And there's other alt media type people that are using it. Although for some weird reason, people are really using Discord and some of these other platforms a lot to do those types of community building situations. And I don't think that's a good idea, because Discord in particular definitely censors people. So you can't really go on there and talk about how terrible the Rosny Sky, for instance, or things like that. So you just have to be very, very careful. Yeah, and I know people are enjoying the whole Band thing, and then also, just through Substack, you can go on there and make comments and stuff on my various blog posts on Substack. So that's a good option as well. You don't have to join anything. You can go on Substack and read it and make posts on there, and not really have to do much of anything, which that's an option. So if you're on diamonddisc.substack.com, you'll see the link in the box in the upper right corner. And that is my blog. I'm calling it the blog. That's basically what it is. Although I'm not really writing things necessarily. It's just mostly links and the audio version of this podcast. So if you go to diamonddisc.substack.com, you just put in your email address and do subscribe. And I've had a few people who even are contributing to what I'm doing through this same mechanism. You can choose to give monthly or annually or whatever. And thank you very much to you guys who have done that. Definitely been some of you guys who have stepped up and funded what I'm doing, and I really appreciate that. I'm not doing any commercials on this. The only way you would see a commercial is if you're on Rumble and you click to join the live stream. You might see a commercial or two that they play. They insert it automatically on the front end. That's not me doing that. That's them doing that. That's how they pay for their platform. And I've noticed too that YouTube has started inserting commercials in some of my videos, and that my YouTube channel is not monetized. I'm demonetized. So if you see commercials in my YouTube videos, I'm not putting them there at all, and I don't make a dime on any of them. Only they do. And I've seen that happen some, not all that much, but some, on some of my videos on there. But yeah, the nice thing about Substack is you can you go there and subscribe for free, and you can get the email when I send it out either tomorrow or Tuesday that will have all of the links to all the articles that I talk about tonight. If you don't want to sign up on Substack, but you still want the information, all you have to do is go to diamonddisc.substack.com, and instead of putting your email address in, you can just click no thanks, and that's totally fine. And then it takes you right to this this main blog page here. This is last week's show. The digital panopticon is last week's show. The first one here says links, and that's where all the links are. Imagine that. And then the one below that is the podcast. That's the audio podcast version of the show from last week. Now, this is the final version, the one that I uploaded everywhere. This is the audio-only version of it. And some people like having the audio version of the show. For whatever reason, they don't want to watch it necessarily and just want to listen. So that's what you can do. You can see it was a long show last week. We did almost a 3-hour show, and that was after I edited it down. So that was last week's show. And then, of course, it is available as well on all the other platforms. And if you're on the links page here, oh yeah, I wanted to mention this. If you're on the links page, or if you're on the email list, you'll get the links emailed to you, so it shows up in your inbox. What happens is I send out the links to all of the articles that I talk about, and those are all right here. If you scroll down just a little ways, right here where it says article links, and from here down, it's basically the stuff that I talked about. This is all the things that I covered last week in the broadcast, right? Including some extra videos at the bottom here that are some of my end times dates videos, which I didn't necessarily mention them, but they're there. Now, the other thing is when I do this Substack posting that has all of the article links in it, I'm also waiting until I have the final version of this show posted to these different platforms: BitChute, Rumble, Brighteon, and Facebook. For whatever reason, I don't know why, ClickView is one of the platforms I've been using, and for some reason I'm not able to upload anything in the last probably month. I don't know why. I'm not sure exactly what's happened. I've tried to talk to their tech support folks, and they keep saying, yeah, we're going to fix it, but it's not been fixed. So you will see that the latest video on my ClickView channel is from about almost a month ago, because I can't upload. Hopefully they will get that fixed. Hopefully I'll be able to put my videos back on ClickView, but for the moment I can't. So that's why if you're on here and you click on this, you're just going to go to my channel on ClickView. But otherwise, everything else is kind of normal. We have BitChute, we have Rumble, we have Brighteon, we have Facebook. So the videos, the 3-hour video that I mentioned from last week, that is on all these other platforms. That's the final version. Of course, I have to wait until that version is done. I have to finish that on Monday and then post it everywhere after it's done rendering and everything. So it takes a little while, is what I'm saying. And the other thing I started doing is, and you guys are welcome to join me on this, I've started doing a YouTube premiere of the show. Now keep in mind, this live show is on YouTube right now, but I can't leave it there because I'm mentioning how terrible the frozen yeast is for you and how it's not health food. And if you do that for real on YouTube and you let it process through their system, it will then flag your video, and eventually you'll get a strike. You might get a strike right away. So I don't really want to take that chance. I kind of don't want to rebuild the YouTube channel again. I've already done that once. And so what I wanted to do, though, is just mention that the YouTube video that we're making right now won't stay here. I will put up a new version probably around Tuesday, and I'll do a premiere of that, and that will be a YouTube-safe, YouTube-friendly version of this show, where I'm not mentioning any medical misinformation or talking about the yeast in any way. So I take all that stuff out so that I can post it back to YouTube and hopefully reach a few more people. So I've had a few people join me on the live premiere of the video. So it's the recorded video that's uploaded. It premieres. When the premiere happens, it's basically another open chat room on there, and you can go in there and make comments as the video is going. So it's like you're chatting on the live video that happened a few days earlier, if that makes sense. So we're doing the video now on Sunday night. The premiere will happen probably around Tuesday, and you guys are welcome to join me there. So join me in chat at 5 p.m. Central today. This was last Tuesday for the YouTube premiere of the edited version of this live show. Does that make sense? So that's what this is. If you click this and watch it, that version of this show is, instead of the 3-hour full-length show, it's like an hour and a half. So you can get the cut-down version of the show that way, but keep in mind I'm self-censoring on that particular platform because you have to on YouTube, or else you get killed off of their system. And I don't really want to lose my channel again, so I put up a stripped-down version and then link it to, if you don't want the censored version, you can very easily go to any of these other ones that are the completely non-censored versions. So you can get it either way. It's just totally up to you. And this is the video. The image here is a showing here of all of the items in my store. And we didn't really talk about the store, but that's another way you can help support what I'm doing and know that I don't want to have any sponsors or anything like that. Actually, I mentioned that last week. And the funny thing was, I was contacted last week right after I mentioned that and said, if you're a sponsor, don't bother contacting me. And what happened? I got a sponsor that contacted me and said, we want to advertise our products on your show, and they're getting ghosted. I'm not going to bother with that because I don't really want that. I don't want to have to try and promote something that I don't 100% believe in. Like, I don't know. I mean, it could be gold and silver. It's not that. It could be, selling, whatever. It could be food systems. It could be, you name it. You've seen it all, Gold and silver, I think, is one of the main things out there that people are promoting. Emergency food prep prepper type stuff is another really big one. And, water systems, water purification, water filters, and so forth. And I don't really I believe in all that stuff. Don't get me wrong. I really do. But I don't really want to have to promote it to try and make ends meet. So what we're doing instead is you guys are funding the operation to me directly. And so thank you guys who are doing that. I've got some people that are Substack subscribers who are paying monthly, paying annually, and thank you very much. That's really helping me because that goes directly to me. There's no middleman. The other option is you can buy a product, and that money I'm splitting with the company that's producing the products. So I get a little bit of that, but they get most of that, honestly. But there's some really good products. Water bottles, there's mugs, there's shirts, there's hats, different things like that. So feel free to take a look at the store. I won't bother showing that again this week, but it is there. Shop.thediamond.report is where that is. And if you want to join me on Tuesday, I will be in the chat room when this show from Sunday night premieres on YouTube. Keep in mind, it will be the cut down version. It will be the shortened version, so it won't take a super long time to play it back on YouTube. And I think it's a good way to go because then it allows people to get in there and chat again if they want to. You can join and chat. So kind of fun. This is Take It to Lord and Prayer End Times Dates over on YouTube. So that is there. And then Rumble is probably my other main channel. And then many of you guys are already following along on Rumble, so thank you there. And Diamond Disc is a channel on Rumble and BitChute and Brighteon and ClickView, all of the above. And I'm getting a few more followers here and there, and TikTok as well. I've decided not to post anything else to TikTok for a while because everything I post, they take down about 20 or 30% of anything I post. And it's just this show. It's literally just chopped up little pieces, 10-minute chunks of this show. And you can see I'm not out here to hurt anybody except those who don't want the truth out. If you don't want the truth to come out, then yeah, you're in my crosshairs. Yep. I will admit that. I'm forgive. In the entire American empire. Yeah. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I'm only gonna tell the truth about what you're doing. So you guys don't like that? Tough. But there are so many people out there that are doing what I'm doing in different ways, and TikTok is one of those suppression mechanisms. They're absolutely trying to suppress the truth. Yes, I know it's Chi-Com owned. That's partly why. But you can bet that them and the American empire are all in bed together. So because of that, you can see my numbers on TikTok. Look, 0, 3, 0, 1, 0, 0, 0, 1. That was just the show from a couple weeks ago, called Our Tyrant Overlords. That was the name of that show. I literally had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pieces, and I had uploaded 10. So they took 2 down, and none of the rest of what I put up had any views. And you can see some of these other ones do, but that was before I started getting suppressed. So I don't really think there's any point in going on much with TikTok, although I'm not going to delete the account. I think I will leave it. And I've already got 2 strikes on TikTok, so I don't know how long until they do remove my channel from there, and that's very likely that they will. But I'm not going to post anything else for a while. I heard there's no clear explanation of anything, really, at least not on the TikTok website, and I refuse to install the app. So it might be on the app, but somewhere it has to tell you how long a strike lasts on TikTok. I have no idea. I've heard people say it's 90 days, and that would be like same as YouTube, and that's probably true. So if that's the case, I've already got 2 strikes. So that's the way it goes, right? Anyway, this is the other way you guys can help me out if you want to. I do various things during the day, including music-related stuff still, and mixing and mastering music. It could be anything from music to podcasts. Actually, I do a lot of podcast work, as you guys know. I do graphic design. That's what this page here is. I've got some different things pulled up on this particular page. So, if you guys know of anybody, any companies that you either work for or know owners of other companies or things like that who might need a website built or graphic design done or whatever, that's also what I do. So That's sort of my normal day-to-day gig. And so that's very helpful if you guys have any referrals in those ways. But yeah, diamonddiscaudio.com or Diamond Digital Media, it's spelled right there. And you can get to the website pretty easily that way. And I think that's pretty much it for me tonight, unless you guys had anything else you wanted to add. Yeah, we made it until AM without being nuked, Kelly says. Yeah, we made it until the AM. Well, that's good. I'm glad we didn't get nuked. I still think that there's some major things on the horizon for this year, so we'll talk about that more later. I know we've talked about it at length on many other episodes of this show, so we'll cover that more later. It's going on 1 o'clock in the morning here, so I'm kind of getting tired. I don't know about you guys. But anyway, I hope you guys have a really great week. We'll do it again next week. We'll be on the 11th next week. So, was that Super Bowl Sunday? Yeah, so we'll do a alternative to the Super Bowl nonsense. So hope you guys have a really great week, and we'll talk to you again very soon.